The sun was barely up when Mira stood outside the grand gates of the military academy. Her old canvas bag hung loosely over her shoulder, the straps frayed and patched with rough stitches she had done herself. The bag was all she had carried. From her small village along with a heart full of dreams, she looked at the towering walls of the academy, her throat dry, her palms sweaty. This was not a place for girls like her, or so everyone said. The gates gleamed with fresh paint, the guards in crisp uniforms. She could feel their eyes scanning her faded clothes, her worn sandals, her hair tied in a simple braid. She adjusted the strap of her bag and took a step forward. But as she walked through the gates, the laughter began. A group of cadets, in spotless uniforms, stood near the training field, and one of them elbowed the other, whispering just loud enough for her to hear. Look at her shoes. Did she walk here from another century? Another cadet chuckled. Maybe she thinks this is a charity camp? What is she even doing here? Mira kept her head down. She wanted to answer, to tell them she had earned this chance through hard work, but her voice felt trapped inside her chest. The mocking voices grew louder as she passed. Hey, village girl, did you bring your cows to the academy? One of them jeered. Better go back before you embarrass yourself. The sound of their laughter cut deep, but she clenched her fists and kept walking. She reached the registration hall and stood in the long queue of cadets. Everyone around her looked polished, confident, and proud. She felt like a shadow among shining stars. Her clothes were plain, her uniform delayed due to paperwork and money issues. When the clerk at the desk called her name, she quickly handed over her papers, her hands trembling slightly. The clerk gave her a sharp look. You are late, he said coldly. Training starts today. I hope you can keep up. Mira nodded, quietly gripping the edge of the counter. She knew she was late because her village bus had broken down, and she had to walk miles to catch another one. But no one here would care about her struggles. This was a world where only strength mattered. As she stepped outside, she caught sight of the training ground again. The cadets were now jogging, their boots pounding in perfect rhythm. The trainer, a tall and intimidating officer, barked orders that echoed across the field. Discipline. Focus. This is not a playground. Mira felt her heart race. Soon she would have to train with them. Would she be able to keep up? She remembered her father's face, the way he used to look at the horizon and tell her stories of courage. Dreams are for those who dare. Mira, he would say, and you, my little one, were born to dare. The sound of laughter broke her thoughts again. A group of cadets walked past her, one of them carrying a brand new duffel bag with shiny boots sticking out. They all looked at her as if she was something to laugh at. One girl, tall and confident, smirked. You're going to cry before the day ends. Village girl? I'll bet on it. Mira swallowed her anger. She could have yelled back, but what would that prove? Instead, she walked to the dormitory assigned to her. Inside, the beds were neatly arranged, every cadet's belongings in perfect order. Mira found an empty bed in the corner and carefully placed her old bag on it. She noticed a few girls watching her from the other side of the room, whispering and giggling. Maybe she doesn't even know how to make a bed, one of them sneered. I bet she's never seen a uniform in her life. Mira ignored them, though her chest tightened with every cruel word. She opened her bag and pulled out a small piece of cloth, an old handkerchief with faded embroidery. It was her mother's. The only memory she had of her mother had died when Mira was very young, leaving behind only this cloth and a handful of stories. Mira pressed the cloth to her heart, taking strength from it. Later that day, the cadets gathered on the training field for their first physical test. The sun was blazing, the ground hard under their boots. The instructor, a stern man with sharp eyes, paced in front of them. This test will show me who is serious and who is wasting my time, he announced. There will be no excuses. Cadets stood in neat rows, but Mira's nervousness made her movements stiff. When the whistle blew, they all sprinted toward the obstacle course. Mira ran too, but her old shoes slipped in the dirt, and she stumbled. She got back up. Her knees scraped, but she kept running. She climbed the wooden wall, her arms trembling. With the effort, she could hear the laughter of the cadets behind her. She can't even climb a wall. Someone shouted. Mira bit her lip and pulled herself up, her hands burning from the rough wood. She fell twice while crossing the rope bridge, but each time she stood up again. By the time she finished the course, she was the last one. The instructor's face was unreadable as he marked something on his clipboard. The tall girl from earlier smirked as she passed Mira. Told you she'd fail. This place isn't for weaklings. Mira's face burned with shame. She wanted to cry, but she refused. She wiped her tears before they could fall. That night, when the dormitory was quiet, Mira sneaked out to the training ground. Under the pale light of the moon, she started running. Her legs ached, her lungs burned, but she kept going. She climbed the walls, crawled under the nets, and repeated every part of the obstacle course until her body felt like it would break as she collapsed. On the ground, sweat dripping from her forehead, she looked at the stars and whispered, I will not give up. I will not let them break me. I will prove them wrong. She didn't know that someone was watching her from the shadows. A tall figure stood near the edge of the field, his posture straight and commanding. The general of the academy, a man with sharp eyes and a face hardened by years of battle, observed her silently. He had seen many cadets over the years, but something about this girl caught his attention. The way she struggled but refused to stop, the fire in her eyes, it reminded him of someone from his past. He whispered to himself, "She looks just like her mother." The next morning, Mira woke up sore and exhausted. As she walked to the training ground, the cadets were already whispering and laughing at her. "Look who's here, ready to be last again," the tall girl teased. Mira clenched her fists but said nothing. When the instructor blew the whistle, she ran. Her legs felt heavy, but her heart pushed her forward. She remembered the training she had done in the dark, and she managed to finish faster than yesterday, though still behind most of the others. The general was there that morning, standing at the edge of the field, watching the cadets. His eyes followed Mira as she struggled through the course. When she stumbled on the final jump, he saw the determination in her face as she got up again. The other cadets didn't notice his gaze. They were too busy laughing and boasting. But when Mira caught her breath and looked up, she saw the general watching her. For a moment, their eyes met, and she felt something strange spark, as if he knew her. Later, in the cafeteria, the whispers continued. "She's not going to last a week," one cadet said loudly. "She should just quit and go back to her cows." Mira sat alone with her simple meal, her hands gripping the edge of the table. She didn't respond, but her heart burned. She didn't come here to quit. She came here to make something of herself, to make her father proud. But as the laughter grew louder, she wondered if she had made a mistake. That night, when everyone was asleep, she went back to the training ground again. Her hands were blistered, her knees bruised, but she trained anyway. She climbed, ran, and pushed herself until her breath came in harsh gasps. From the shadows, the general watched her again. His eyes softened slightly. "She has the same fire," he murmured. "It can't be a coincidence." He turned and walked away, but his voice echoed in the empty night. "Tomorrow, I will find out who you really are, Mira." The morning sun glared down on the academy training ground as the whistle pierced the air. Mira's muscles ached from last night's secret training, but her spirit felt unbroken. She stood in line with the other cadets, her faded clothes standing out among the crisp uniforms. The tall, proud girl who had mocked her yesterday, Ria, glanced at Mira and smirked. "Ready to come last again, village girl. Maybe you should sit this one out before you humiliate yourself." Mira kept her eyes forward, ignoring her. She had promised herself that today she would not let their laughter shake her. She thought of her father's tired but encouraging smile when she had told him she was leaving for the academy. "Don't worry about what others say," he had told her. "Your roots may be in the mud, but even a lotus blooms from the mud." But instructor barked. "Today is your first official fitness test. You will run, crawl, climb, and endure pain. Only those with true grit will pass. No excuses, no sympathy." His voice was like iron, cutting through the morning haze. "If you fail today, you will be marked as weak. And weakness," he growled, "has no place here." Mira's stomach churned. This was the test that could decide if she stayed or was sent home in shame. The whistle blew. Cadets sprinted forward, their boots thundering on the dirt track. Mira started strong, her heart pounding like a drum. But soon, the others surged ahead of her. Ria glanced back with a mocking grin. "Try not to trip over your own feet, village girl," she yelled, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Mira pushed harder. She focused on her breath and, out hand forced her legs to keep moving. When they reached the first obstacle, a steep wooden wall, Mira's arms trembled as she grabbed the ropes. She tried to haul herself up, but her body felt heavy. One cadet whispered loudly, "She doesn't even have the strength of a child." Her foot slipped. She fell hard on her back. The breath knocked out of her. The laughter of the cadets stabbed her like a knife. For a moment, she just lay there, staring at the sky. Doubt crept in. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here. But then, she remembered the nights she spent training in her village, running barefoot on dusty roads, climbing trees too, strength in her arms, lifting heavy buckets of water for her family. She gritted her teeth, grabbed the rope again, and climbed. This time, she didn't stop. She reached the top and pulled herself over, her arms burning, but her spirit roaring. As she dropped down on the other side, she heard a voice she didn't expect. It wasn't mocking or cruel. It was low, firm, and almost proud. "Good," the voice said quietly. "She doesn't quit." Mira looked around but saw no one, only the trainer shouting instructions. She didn't know the general had been watching her again from the far side of the field, hidden behind a row of cadets. The second part of the test was crawling under barbed wire. Mud splashed onto Mira's face as she wriggled through the narrow space. Her arms were cut and bruised, but she didn't stop. Ria, already ahead, looked back and sneered, "Stay down there, mud girl, it suits you." Mira ignored her and crawled faster, her heart pounding. She emerged at the other side, covered in dirt, but with a fierce fire in her eyes. She wasn't going to give Ria the satisfaction of seeing her broken. The last challenge was the rope climb. One by one, cadets scaled the rope, ringing the bell at the top to signal success. When Mira's turn came, whispers ran through the group. "She won't make it," someone said. "She'll probably cry halfway up." Her hands trembled as she grabbed the rope. She felt the rough fibers scrape her palms, reopening small cuts from the night before. She gritted her teeth and pulled herself up, one painful step at a time. Halfway up, her arms screamed in pain and her legs wobbled. Don't give up, she told herself. Not now, not when they're watching. She thought of her father again, his words echoing in her heart. Courage isn't about never falling, Mira. It's about rising every time you fall. With a loud grunt, she pulled herself to the top and rang the bell. The sound echoed across the field. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a few cadets actually clapped softly, but enough to make Ria's smile vanish. After the test, Mira sat on the grass, exhausted but proud. Her clothes were soaked with sweat, and her arms were covered in bruises. She didn't care. She had finished. She had proved to herself that she could survive. As she sipped water from her flask, she noticed a tall figure walking toward the trainer. It was the general. His uniform was immaculate, his boots shining, his presence commanding respect from everyone on the field. The cadets quickly straightened up, their chatter dying. The general spoke to the trainer quietly, but his eyes flicked toward Mira. She felt a strange chill run through her. Why does he keep looking at me like that? She wondered later. In the dormitory, Ria's voice was loud and cruel as ever. Don't get excited, village girl. You were still last. You're nothing but a charity case here. Mira ignored her and sat on her bed, rubbing ointment on her bruised arms. The other girls whispered, but Mira's focus was elsewhere. She pulled out her mother's old handkerchief and held it close. I will prove them wrong, Mama, she whispered. I will make you proud. That night, when the academy lights went out, Mira quietly slipped out again. The moonlight bathed the training ground in silver. She walked to the rope climb, placed her hands on the rough fibers, and began climbing again and again, until her muscles screamed in pain. From the shadows, the general watched, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He turned to the officer beside him. This one has fire, he said. Set up a personal test for her tomorrow. I want to see what she's truly made of. The officer nodded. Should I inform her? No, the general said, his eyes still fixed on Mira. She'll find out when the time comes. The next morning, Mira was summoned to the training yard alone. Confused, she stood in front of the instructor, who handed her a wooden practice rifle. The general wants to see what you can do, he said coldly. You will complete a solo drill while the entire academy watches. When Mira turned, she saw all the cadets gathered, whispering and laughing. This will be fun, Ria muttered with a grin. Mira's stomach tightened, but she gripped the rifle firmly. The entire academy stood silent, the morning air heavy with anticipation. Cadet Mira stood alone in the middle of the training ground, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out every whisper. She clutched the wooden practice rifle the instructor had handed her moments ago, its weight strange but oddly comforting in her hands. Across from her, the general's gaze was fixed and unblinking. His presence radiated authority. Cadet Mira, he said, his voice strong and clear, this drill is not just about strength. It is about your mind, your heart, and your will. You will complete the obstacle course with this rifle. Drop it once, and you fail. Complete it, and you earn my respect. Mira's throat went dry. The entire academy watched her. Dozens of cadets standing in neat rows, their faces filled with curiosity, doubt, or even glee at the thought of her failure. Ria, the tall and confident cadet, who had mocked her endlessly, smirked. She won't last 5 minutes, Ria whispered to her friends, loud enough for Mira to hear. Village girls don't know anything about discipline. The general's voice sliced through the tension. Begin. The whistle blew, and Mira ran forward, gripping the wooden rifle tightly. The first obstacle was a series of tall wooden walls, higher than any she had climbed before. She sprinted to the first wall, threw the rifle up, and jumped. Her hands barely caught the edge, and her legs dangled. She felt the weight of everyone's gaze on her. For a moment, doubt flooded her mind. What if I can't do this? What if they're right about me? Then she remembered her late-night training sessions, the countless times she had climbed and fallen, but always stood back up. She dug her fingers into the wood, pulled herself up with a loud grunt, and swung her leg over the top. As she dropped down, her feet hit the ground hard, but she didn't let go of the rifle. The cadets murmured. Ria's grin faltered just slightly. The next obstacle was the rope climb. Mira's palms burned as she gripped the rope, but she tightened her hold on the rifle, tucking it under her arm as she climbed. Each step felt heavier, her muscles screaming, but her mind was locked on one thought: don't quit. Halfway up, she slipped. Gasps echoed from the crowd. The rifle almost fell from her grasp. Mira's heart froze as she clutched it with both hands. For a split second, she dangled, her body swinging dangerously from the sidelines. The general's eyes narrowed, but he did not speak. Mira closed her eyes and whispered to herself, I am not weak. I am my mother's daughter. With a sudden burst of determination, she tightened her grip and climbed again. Her arms shook violently, but she reached the top, tapped the bell, and slid down with the rifle still in her hand. The cadets fell silent. Even Ria's smirk faded. The third obstacle was the mud crawl under barbed wire. Mira dropped to her knees and crawled forward, her uniform soaking in the cold mud. The wooden rifle felt heavier now, but she refused to let it slip from her grip. Mud splashed her face, but she kept going, crawling faster. Come on, village girl. Rhea shouted, sarcastically from the sidelines. Crawl like you're back in your fields. Mira ignored her. Every cruel word from Rhea fueled her resolve. I'm not just a village girl, she thought. I'm more than that. I'll show you all who I really am. When she emerged from the mud, her hair messy and her uniform filthy, she didn't care. She sprinted to the final obstacle, a high wooden ladder leading to a balance beam. Her legs shook as she climbed the ladder. The balance beam was narrow, suspended high above the ground. She had to walk across while holding the rifle. As she took the first step, the world seemed to blur. The voices of the cadets faded. It was just her, the beam, and the sky. She took one step, then another, her arms out for balance. Halfway across, a sudden gust of wind hit her. The rifle wobbled in her hand. For a terrifying second, she almost lost her footing. She froze. From the ground, the general's voice rang out, firm but encouraging. Do not look down, cadet. Look forward. Trust your strength. Mira's eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Not here, not with encouragement. Something about his voice felt strangely familiar, like it carried a piece of her past. Taking a deep breath, she moved forward. Step by step, she crossed the beam, her heart pounding, until she reached the other side. When her feet hit the ground, she dropped to her knees, panting, the rifle still clutched in her hand. The field was silent. Then, unexpectedly, the general began to clap. It was slow, deliberate, and powerful. The cadets, stunned, followed suit, their hands coming together hesitantly. Even those who had mocked her now looked at her with new eyes. Mira's chest tightened. No one had ever applauded her before. Cadet Mira, the general said, stepping forward, you have shown more determination than many here. Strength is not just in the body, it is in the heart. You have proven that today. Mira's eyes burned with unshed tears. She lowered her head respectfully, holding the rifle against her chest. Thank you, sir, she whispered. But inside, a storm of questions raged. Why did he look at her like that? Why did his words feel like they carried a secret? As the cadets dispersed, Rhea brushed past Mira, her face red with anger. Don't think this changes anything, she hissed. You're still nothing. Mira said nothing. She didn't need to. The way the other cadets looked at her now with a hint of respect was enough. Later that evening, Mira was assigned to clean the old academy library as part of her duties. The library was dusty and filled with old books, maps, and files. She moved through the shelves quietly, wiping surfaces, her mind still replaying the events of the day. As she reached for a stack of old journals, one of them fell to the ground. A folded piece of yellowed paper slipped out. Curious, Mira picked it up. It was an old letter. The ink faded but still readable. Her breath caught when she saw the name signed at the bottom. It was her mother's name. The letter spoke of a heroic act, and mentioned a mission that had saved the life of a high-ranking officer at the academy. It didn't mention details, but it was clear that her mother had once been connected to this place. Mira's hands trembled as she read it again and again. Was my mother a soldier? She heard footsteps behind her. She quickly turned, hiding the letter behind her back. The general stood there, his face shadowed but his eyes sharp. What are you doing here so late? He asked. Mira hesitated. I was just cleaning, sir. The general's gaze dropped to her hands. What's that you're holding? Mira's heart pounded. She didn't know why, but she felt a sudden urge to keep the letter hidden. Just an old paper, she said softly. The general stepped closer. For a moment, his stern face softened. Your eyes, he said, almost to himself. They remind me of someone I knew long ago. Mira blinked, confused. Someone you knew? He didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked toward the door. Training starts early tomorrow. Don't be late. The letter burned in Mira's hand long after the general left the library. Her heart pounded, her mind spinning with questions. Who was her mother, really? Why was her name mentioned in a military letter that spoke of bravery and sacrifice? And why did the general look at her like he was seeing someone from a memory he couldn't forget? She tucked the letter into her old bag, making sure no one would find it. The other cadets were already whispering about her after the general's public praise that morning, and the last thing she needed was to give them another reason to mock her. Still, as she lay in bed that night, her eyes staring at the ceiling, the words from the letter echoed in her head. She saved his life during the mission, a hero in the shadows. The next morning, the training field buzzed with tension. The cadets had been told that the general himself would be inspecting the drills today. Mira could feel the weight of everyone's eyes as she walked out, wearing her now slightly torn and stained uniform. Rhea, as always, didn't miss the opportunity to sneer. Well, look who's suddenly the favorite, Rhea said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Just because the general clapped for you once doesn't mean you belong here. Mira ignored her. She had learned that answering Rhea only made things worse. Instead, she tightened her braid and focused on the drill instructor's commands. The drill was intense. They were asked to run laps around the field, perform weapon drills, and complete endurance exercises under the burning sun. Sweat stung Mira's eyes, but she refused to slow down. Every step she took felt like she was running toward the truth about her mother. From the far end of the field, she could see the general observing quietly, his hands behind his back, He spoke occasionally to the other officers, but his eyes lingered on Mira. When the drill ended, the instructor barked, "Fall in line." The cadets snapped to attention. The general walked down the row, inspecting each cadet with the same sharp gaze. When he reached Mira, he paused. "Cadet Mira," he said. Mira's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, sir." "Stay back after the drill," he ordered. His voice was firm, but there was something different in his tone, something almost personal. As the cadets dispersed, Ria's eyes glittered with mischief. "Oh, staying back with the general. Maybe you think he's going to hand you a medal. Don't get too proud, village girl. We'll see how long you last." Mira ignored her, though the sting of Ria's words cut deep. She walked to where the general was standing, her palms sweaty. "Sir," she asked hesitantly. The general studied her face for a long moment before speaking. "Where did you get that letter?" Mira froze. How did he know? "I found it while cleaning the library," she admitted softly. "Did you read it?" Mira nodded. "Yes, sir." The general's jaw tightened. "The woman mentioned in that letter, your mother, was no ordinary soldier. She was the bravest person I ever knew." Mira's breath caught. You knew her." The general's eyes softened, just for a moment. "I owe her my life," he said quietly. "But there are things about her past that you are not ready to know yet. When the time is right, I will tell you everything." Before Mira could respond, a loud crash echoed from the dormitory area. The general's expression darkened. "Go," he ordered. "See what's happening. We'll speak again." Mira ran toward the dormitory, her heart racing. When she arrived, she found her bed flipped over, her belongings scattered on the floor. Her old bag was torn open, and her mother's handkerchief lay crumpled in the dirt. She looked around and saw Ria standing with 2 other cadets, smirking. "Oops," Ria said mockingly. "Did we break something important? Maybe you should keep your trash where it belongs?" Mira's blood boiled. "Why did you touch my things?" she demanded. "Because this is not your home," Ria sneered. "You don't belong here. I'm just making sure you understand that." Before Mira could respond, one of the other cadets, a quiet girl named Kavya, stepped forward. "That's enough, Ria," Kavya said firmly. "You've gone too far." Ria rolled her eyes. "Stay out of this, Kavya." But Kavya didn't move. She looked at Mira with sympathy and bent down to help her pick up her things. "Don't listen to her," she whispered. "She's just scared you'll do better than her." Mira's throat tightened. No one had ever stood up for her like that before. That night, Mira sat on her bed, the torn letter and the handkerchief in her lap. She stared at the letter's faded words, her mind spinning. Why was her mother's name linked to the general? What mission had she been part of? As she drifted off to sleep, her dreams were filled with flashes of her mother's face, images of a strong woman in uniform, standing beside a man who looked a lot like the general. The next day, things took an unexpected turn. During morning assembly, the general called out Mira's name in front of everyone. "Cadet Mira, step forward." The cadets exchanged surprised glances as Mira walked up, her heart pounding. "You will lead today's training drill," the general announced. The shock on the cadets' faces, especially Ria's, was almost satisfying. "What?" Ria blurted out before catching herself. "Do you have a problem, Cadet Ria?" The general's voice was sharp. "No, sir," Ria muttered, though her glare at Mira said otherwise. Leading the drill was harder than Mira expected. She had to give commands, motivate the cadets, and set the pace. At first, they ignored her, orders running slower, laughing behind her back, but when she pushed herself harder, running faster and shouting commands with determination, something shifted. A few cadets began to follow her lead, then more. By the end of the session, even those who mocked her were panting behind her, trying to keep up. The general watched silently, his face unreadable. Later, as Mira drank water from the tap, Kavya approached her. "You were amazing today," she said with a smile. "Thank you," Mira replied softly. Kavya hesitated, then whispered, "Be careful. Ria is planning something. I heard her talking last night." Mira's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "She wants to embarrass you in front of the general. She's angry that you're getting attention." That night, Mira stayed alert. She knew Ria would strike soon. True enough, when she returned to her bunk after dinner, she found mud smeared across her sheets and her boots hidden. She clenched her fists but said nothing. She simply cleaned the mess, put on her old sandals, and went to bed. But her silence only seemed to make Ria more furious. The following morning, during parade practice, Ria made her move. She had switched Mira's rifle with one that was broken and wobbly. As Mira marched, the rifle snapped in her hands, causing her to stumble. Laughter erupted from the cadets. Mira's cheeks burned with shame. She looked at the broken rifle in her hands, unsure what to do. Then from the podium the general's voice boomed. "Who did this?" His sharp gaze swept across the cadets. "This is not a joke. This is sabotage." Silence fell. Ria's smirk faltered. The parade ended under a tense, watchful silence. The general's sharp command still echoed in Mira's ears. "Come to my office after the parade." Her heart pounded as she stood at attention, unsure if this was the moment everything would unravel. Her place in the academy, the questions about her mother, even her own belief that she belonged here. When the cadets were dismissed, Ria strutted past Mira with a smirk that didn't quite hide her fear. "Enjoy your little meeting, village girl. Maybe he'll finally send you home." Ria's voice carried a forced arrogance, but there was a flicker of unease in her eyes. She knew the general's anger was not something to trifle with. Kavya came up quietly behind Mira, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry," she whispered. "Whatever happened with that rifle, I know you didn't do anything wrong. Just tell the general the truth." Mira nodded silently. Her throat felt dry with every step toward the general's office. Her thoughts twisted tighter. She clutched her mother's handkerchief in her pocket like a lifeline, praying for strength. The general's office was nothing like she imagined. It was spacious but not grand, simple wooden furniture, shelves filled with old files and medals, and a large map of the country hanging on the wall. Behind the desk, the general sat, his face unreadable. He gestured for her to sit. "Cadet Mira," he began, his voice calm but heavy with authority. "I want to hear your version of what happened this morning." Mira swallowed hard. "Sir, I didn't tamper with the rifle. I didn't even know it was broken until it snapped in my hands. I think someone switched it." The general's eyes narrowed slightly. "Do you know who?" Mira hesitated. Ria's smug face flashed in her mind, but accusing her without proof might make things worse. "No, sir," she said softly, shaking her head. The general studied her for a long moment. Then, instead of pressing further, he leaned back in his chair. "Do you know why I've been watching you since the first day you stepped into this academy?" Mira's heart skipped a beat. "No, sir." The general stood and walked toward the map on the wall. His back was to her as he spoke. "Years ago, there was a soldier herowoman who stood out. Not because she was the strongest, but because she had something most didn't, an unbreakable spirit. Her name was Asha." He paused. "Your mother," Mira froze. The world seemed to tilt around her. You knew my mother," she whispered. "Yes," the general said, turning to face her. His voice softened, just slightly. "She was one of the bravest cadets I have ever trained. She saved lives, including mine, during a mission that should have been her last. She never cared about the odds stacked against her. She believed that courage could break any barrier." Tears filled Mira's eyes. I never knew. My father never told me anything about her time here. I didn't even know she was part of the academy." The general's expression darkened, as if a shadow of pain crossed his memories. "There are things your father may not have wanted you to carry, but you have her eyes, her stubbornness, her fire. I saw at the moment you refused to give up on that obstacle course." Mira wiped her tears quickly, not wanting to look weak. "Sir, did she die in the line of duty?" The general hesitated. "That is something you will have to find out yourself. There are records in the archives that speak of her last mission, but I warn you, it's not an easy story to read." Mira's fists tightened in her lap. "I want to know the truth. I need to know." The general nodded. "I will give you permission to see the archives tomorrow. But first," his voice turned sharp again, "we need to deal with the sabotage this morning. Discipline is the heart of this academy. Whoever tampered with that rifle not only disrespected you, but endangered our values." When Mira left the general's office, the sun was already dipping toward the horizon, bathing the academy grounds. In orange light, she walked slowly, her mind racing with what she had just learned. Her mother a soldier, a hero, someone who had once walked these same paths. The pride and pain tangled in her chest like a knot she couldn't untie. Waiting near the dormitory entrance, leaning against the wall with her arms crossed. "So, did the big boss scold you?" she sneered. "Or did he give you a medal for breaking academy property?" Mira stopped in front of her. For once, she didn't feel the sting of Ria's words. She looked Ria straight in the eye and said calmly, "You should be careful, Ria. The general knows someone is behind this." Ria's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. "Are you accusing me?" she snapped. Mira didn't answer. She simply walked past her, her silence sharper than any retort. That night, while most cadets were laughing in the common room, Mira sat alone on her bed with the letter from the library. She traced the faded ink with her fingers, her heart heavy. "Mama, why didn't you tell me about this place? Why didn't you tell me about him?" Kavya approached, holding 2 cups of warm milk. "Here," she said with a smile. "I thought you might need this. You look like you're carrying the whole world on your shoulders." Mira accepted the cup gratefully. "Thank you," she said softly. After a pause, she added, "Kavya, do you believe that? Some people are meant to fight harder than others." Kavya tilted her head thoughtfully. "I think some people are born with a fire that doesn't let them stop, even when they're tired or scared. You have that fire, Mira. I see it." Mira smiled faintly. "My mother had it too." Later that night, Mira was walking back from the water pump when she overheard voices near the training yard. She froze behind a wall, recognizing Ria's voice. "We'll do it tomorrow." During the rifle drill, Ria whispered to another cadet, "If she fails in front of everyone again, the general will have no choice but to see she's not fit." 2 lead. Mira's blood boiled. So it was Ria. She's been trying to ruin me this whole time. But as she turned to leave, a stick snapped under her foot. The whispering stopped. "Who's there?" Ria's voice rang out sharply. Mira ran before they could see her, her heart thudding in her chest. The next day dawned bright and tense. The cadets gathered for rifle practice, the air thick with competition. Mira's stomach tightened as she remembered Ria's plan. She checked her rifle carefully, inspecting every part, but it seemed fine. The general arrived on the field, his presence commanding immediate silence. "Today's drill will test not only your aim but your focus under pressure," he announced. The cadets took their positions, rifles in hand. Mira knelt, her hands steady despite the storm inside her. She could feel Ria's eyes burning into her, waiting for her to fail. The whistle blew. Shots cracked through the air. Mira fired, her aim sharp and precise. The first target dropped, then the second. Her focus was unshakable. Every shot was like a promise to her mother. "I will not let them break me." Then, suddenly, a loud click. Her rifle jammed. She froze, panic rushing through her veins. She could hear the whispers behind her, the snickers of cadets who had been waiting for this. But this time, Mira didn't back down. She remembered the general's words. "Strength is in the heart." She quickly fixed the jam with trembling, fingers loaded the next round, and fired. The target fell. When the drill ended, she wasn't the top scorer, but she wasn't last either. She had finished, and that was enough. As the cadets filed out, the general called out, "Cadet Ria, Cadet Mira, stay behind." Mira's heart skipped. Ria's confident smirk faltered slightly. The general held up 2 rifles, one of which had a loose screw. "I had all the rifles inspected this morning, except for this one. It was tampered with." His eyes moved from Mira to Ria. "Do either of you have something to say?" The training ground felt like a battlefield of silence. Ria's pale face betrayed the fear she was trying to hide. The general's stern eyes swept over her, then returned to Mira. "This academy does not tolerate dishonor," he said in a voice that carried to the farthest corner of the field. "I will get to the bottom of this sabotage, but first. Cadet Mira, you and I have something more important to discuss." Ria's mouth opened as if to speak, but the general raised his hand. "Not another word. We will talk later." Cadet Ria dismissed. Mira's heart thudded in her chest as the general motioned for her to follow. She could feel the curious stares of the cadets burning into her back. Kavya gave her a small nod of encouragement, but Ria's glare promised revenge. The general led Mira through the long hallways of the academy, past doors she had never seen open before. They stopped in front of a heavy iron door at the end of the corridor. He pulled a set of keys from his pocket and unlocked it with a firm click. "This," he said, pushing the door open, "is the archive. Only a few people have access to what lies inside." The air inside was cold and smelled faintly of old paper. Wooden shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, filled with dusty files, faded photographs, and records dating back decades. The dim light flickered as they stepped inside, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the quiet. Mira's breath caught as her eyes scanned the shelves. Could my mother's story be hidden here? The general walked straight to a metal cabinet and unlocked the drawer. He pulled out a worn file, its edges frayed with age. The words Cadet Asha Classified were stamped in bold letters across the front. He said, handing the file to Mira, "Is your mother's record?" Mira's hands trembled as she took it. She hesitated for a moment, almost afraid to open it. Then, slowly, she flipped the cover. The first page held a photograph of a young woman in uniform, strong, proud, and smiling faintly. Mira's throat tightened. Mama. She looked so much like herself. Only braver, fiercer, as if nothing could break her. There were reports of her training, how she had risen from the bottom of her class to the very top, how her persistence had inspired others. But as Mira turned the pages, the reports grew darker. There were mentions of a mission, a rescue operation gone wrong, a sudden ambush, explosions, soldiers injured, and in the middle of the chaos, Asha had stayed behind to save her commander's life. Mira glanced up at the general, who was watching her with a heavy gaze. "Was that you?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Your mother saved me. She took a risk no one else would. She carried me out when I was wounded, even though she could have saved herself instead. That was the kind of person she was." Mira's eyes blurred with tears. "And what happened to her after that?" The general's jaw tightened. "She was declared missing in action. We never found her." The words hit Mira like a blow. Missing in action. It was worse than knowing she was gone. It meant there was no closure, no answers. She could still be alive, Mira asked, her voice trembling. The general looked away. "It's been many years. The chances are slim, but I will not lie to you. I have never stopped searching for answers." Mira clutched the file to her chest. "Then I will find out what happened. I'll finish what she started. I promise." The general's eyes softened with something like pride. "You have her spirit," he said, "but that spirit will be tested. The path ahead will not be easy." When Mira stepped out of the archive room, her head was spinning. The image of her mother in uniform stayed with her, stronger than ever. She walked back to the dormitory with a new fire in her heart. She no longer felt like an outsider. This place was in her blood, but not everyone saw it that way. That evening, Ria cornered her in the mess hall. "So," Ria said, crossing her arms, "now you're the general's favorite because of some sob story about your mother? Pathetic." Mira looked her straight in the eye. "You can mock me all you want, Ria, but I'm not here for you. I'm here to prove something to myself and to the people who believed in me." Ria's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Then prove it tomorrow. If you think you're so strong, face me in the endurance challenge." Mira frowned. The Endurance challenge. It's a test of stamina. You and I will see who lasts longer, unless you're too scared. Kavya, who was sitting nearby, stood up. This isn't part of the training. You're just trying to set her up. Stay out of this, Kavya, Rhea snapped. Or do you think she can't handle it? Mira clenched her fists. Fine, I'll face you. That night Kavya sat with Mira in the dormitory. Rhea is trying to break you, she warned. She'll do anything to make you look weak in front of the general. Mira nodded. I know, but I won't let her win. Not anymore. She stayed awake long after everyone else had fallen asleep, training quietly in the yard under the pale moonlight. Push-ups, running, rope climbs, she pushed her body to the limit, hearing her mother's voice in her heart. Strength isn't just in your muscles, Mira. It's in your will. The next morning, the entire academy gathered to watch the endurance challenge. It wasn't official training, but word had spread like wildfire. The cadets lined up around the field, their voices buzzing with excitement. The challenge was simple. Carry a heavy pack while running the obstacle course, over and over, until one of them collapsed or gave up. Rhea stood beside Mira, smirking, ready to embarrass yourself. Mira didn't answer. She tightened her pack and fixed her eyes on the course. The whistle blew. They ran at first. Rhea surged ahead, her confidence on full display. The cadets cheered as she scaled the walls and leaped over the hurdles. Mira kept a steady pace behind her, conserving her strength. Come on, village girl. Can't you run faster? Rhea taunted. Mira ignored her. She focused on her breath, her heartbeat, the rhythm of her steps. After the third lap, Rhea's pace began to slow. Sweat dripped down her face, and her breathing grew heavy. Mira, though exhausted, kept moving forward with steady determination. By the fifth lap, Rhea stumbled, almost falling. The crowd gasped. Mira passed her quietly, not saying a word. You think you're better than me, Rhea panted. Trying to catch up, Mira didn't answer. She finished the sixth lap, her legs burning, her lungs on fire, but she refused to stop. From the sidelines, the general watched closely, his expression unreadable. When Rhea collapsed halfway through the seventh lap, the cadets fell silent. Mira didn't stop running until she crossed the finish line. There was no cheering, no laughter, just stunned silence. Mira dropped the heavy pack, her chest heaving, sweat pouring down her face. She had one. The general stepped forward. Cadet Mira, he said, his voice carrying authority and respect. You have shown not only strength, but discipline and endurance. This is what true leadership looks like. The cadets, including those who had mocked her, slowly began to clap. Rhea lay on the ground, glaring at Mira with a mixture of anger and humiliation. That night, Mira sat with Kavya by the window of the dormitory. I saw the way the general looked at you today, Kavya said with a smile. He believes in you. Mira looked down at her mother's letter, her voice quiet but firm. I have to live up to my mother's name. I have to finish what she started, no matter what it takes. The early morning mist clung to the academy grounds like a secret that refused to be spoken. Mira stood by the window of her dormitory, clutching her mother's letter. Her legs still ached from the endurance challenge, but the pain was nothing compared to the storm inside her heart. Her mother's face, in the photograph strong, determined, was burned into her mind. What happened to you, Mama? Why does the general look at me like he knows something I don't? Outside, the cadets gathered for their morning drills. Rhea was there too, her face set in a cold mask of fury. After losing the challenge, Rhea had gone quiet, but Mira knew it wasn't over. People like Rhea didn't accept defeat. They plotted revenge. Kavya's voice broke her thoughts. You coming, Mira? She asked softly, lacing up her boots. Yeah, Mira replied, tucking the letter safely into her bag. She took one last look at the rising sun. Whatever comes next, I have to be ready. The day's training was brutal. The cadets ran obstacle courses until their lungs burned, practiced drills until their arms felt like lead, and learned strategy exercises in the dusty yard. Mira pushed herself harder than ever, ignoring the whispers behind her. Every drop of sweat felt like a step closer to honoring her mother's legacy, but she couldn't ignore the general's eyes on her. He didn't just watch like an instructor, he studied her, as if every movement told him something about the past. After the drills, he called her aside. Cadet Mira, he said, his tone low but urgent. I need to speak with you after dinner tonight. It's about your mother's final mission. There's something you must know. Mira's heart leaped. Yes, sir, she said quickly. The general gave a single nod. Don't tell anyone. As she walked back to the dormitory, Mira's mind was spinning. Her final mission. Could this be the answer I've been searching for? But while Mira's thoughts were consumed by her mother, Rhea was scheming. In the corner of the common room, Rhea whispered to two other cadets, her voice dripping with venom. She thinks she's special because the general likes her. Fine. Let's see how special she is when she's expelled. One of the boys frowned. What are you planning, Rhea? A little accident, Rhea said with a cruel smile. During tomorrow's night drill, she'll take the blame for something she didn't do. That evening, Mira barely touched her dinner. Kavya noticed. You're nervous about meeting the general, aren't you? Mira nodded. He said he wants to tell me about my mother's last mission. Kavya, what if I can't handle what I hear? Kavya smiled gently. Your mother was brave, and you're just like her. Whatever the truth is, you can handle it. Mira smiled faintly, but her stomach was tight with unease. After dinner, the general's assistant led her to his office. The air was cool, the room lit by a single lamp. The general stood by his desk, holding a sealed folder. This, he said, placing the folder on the table, is everything I know about Usha's last mission. But before I show you, I need to ask, are you ready for the truth? It might not be easy to hear. Mira swallowed hard. I need to know, sir. I've lived my whole life not knowing who my mother really was. I want to understand. The general's eyes softened. Very well. He opened the folder. Inside were grainy photos, mission reports, and coded notes. He pointed to one photo, a younger version of him standing next to Usha. They were both covered in mud, but Usha's eyes shone with determination. She was sent on a covert operation, the general began. Her team's objective was to rescue hostages from enemy territory. The mission was successful mostly because of her, but during the retreat, the enemy ambushed them. Usha stayed behind to hold them off while the rest of us escaped. I wanted to go back for her, but his voice broke slightly. By the time we returned, she was gone. All we found was her uniform and traces of a battle. Mira's breath caught so. She didn't die. The general's jaw tightened. We don't know. Some believe she was captured. Others think she sacrificed herself. Tears welled in Mira's eyes. She could still be alive, she whispered. The general placed a hand on her shoulder. Hope is a powerful thing, but you must be prepared for any truth. As Mira left the office, clutching a copy of the mission file, she felt both heavier and stronger. Her mother's courage burned inside her like a flame. If Mama could face such danger, I can face anything, she told herself. But danger was closer than she realized. Later that night, as the cadets prepared for the upcoming night drill, Mira noticed something odd. Her boots were missing again. She searched everywhere but couldn't find them. Ria's smug expression told her everything she needed to know. What's wrong, village girl? Ria asked sweetly. Lose something again? Mira glared, but said nothing. She borrowed an old pair of shoes from Kavya and focused on the drill ahead. The night drill began under a sky thick with stars. The cadets were tasked with navigating the obstacle course in near darkness, carrying heavy packs and completing each stage as quickly as possible. It was dangerous, especially in the dark. Mira ran with determination, her focus sharper than ever. She was halfway through when she heard someone shout, "Fire!" There's smoke near the supply shed. The cadets stopped in confusion. A thin trail of smoke was rising from the shed near the edge of the training yard. The instructors rushed over, barking orders. Who was last near the shed? Someone pointed at Mira. I saw her walking that way earlier. Mira froze. What? No, I didn't. Ria stepped forward, her voice feigning innocence. Maybe she accidentally left something burning. I mean, she's been acting strange all day. Mira's chest tightened. She set me up. The general arrived moments later, his face hard as stone. What's going on? Sir, one instructor said, we found evidence that someone tampered with the supplies. Mira's name came up. Mira's face went pale. Sir, I didn't do this. I swear I didn't. The general's eyes narrowed. We will investigate. Until then, Cadet Mira, you are confined to the dormitory. No drills tomorrow. That night, Mira sat on her bed, her fists clenched. Kavya sat beside her. This is Ria's doing. Kavya said angrily. I know it, but how do we prove it? Mira stared at the floor, tears burning her eyes. I'll prove it. Somehow I won't let her destroy me. I'm not leaving this academy, not when I'm so close to the truth about my mother. The morning after the fire felt colder than usual. Mira stood by the dormitory window, watching the cadets gather for drills while she was confined inside, her heart twisting with frustration. The false accusation gnawed at her like a thorn. I didn't do it. Why can't they see? Kavya entered the room with 2 cups of tea. They're talking about you, she said softly, setting a cup on Mira's table. Ria is spreading rumors that you started the fire to get attention. Mira clenched her fists. I knew it was her. But how do I prove something I didn't do? The general thinks I'm guilty. Kavya shook her head. I don't think he fully believes it. He didn't expel you. That means he's giving you time to prove yourself. Mira looked at her friend, a flicker of determination rising in her chest. Then I have to find the truth before Ria ruins everything. I'll clear my name. Meanwhile, in the general's office, the air was tense. He held the coded message he had received the night before. The words were simple but powerful. Aja, sighted. Border region, alive. The general paced the floor, his mind racing. Could it be true? After all these years, if Asha was alive, what danger might she be in now? And how much should Mira know before the time was right? He picked up the phone and called his most trusted officer. I need a team to verify this. Message. Keep it quiet, and make sure no one knows, not even the cadets. Back in the dormitory, Mira spent the afternoon thinking of ways to prove her innocence. Ria was clever, she never left evidence. But Mira remembered something. The night of the fire, she had seen a shadow near the supply shed. Kavya, Mira said suddenly. Do you remember who was missing when we gathered for the night drill? Someone wasn't there when the fire started? Kavya frowned, thinking hard. Now that you mention it, I didn't see Rhea at the starting point until a few moments before the fire was spotted. Mira's eyes narrowed. That's it. She had time to plant something near the shed. That evening, Mira quietly slipped out of the dormitory while most cadets were at dinner. She crept toward the supply shed, her heart pounding. She wasn't supposed to be out, but she had to find proof. The shed still smelled faintly of burnt wood. She scanned the ground with a flashlight, her hands trembling. Then, near the back corner, she found Eton's unburnt piece of cloth. It wasn't just any cloth. It was part of a cadet's scarf, and it had Rhea's initials embroidered on the edge. Mira's breath caught. This is it. Proof. Before she could return to the dormitory, she heard footsteps approaching. She quickly hid behind a stack of barrels as two cadets entered the shed. She recognized one of them as one of Rhea's close friends. She's getting too close, the boy muttered. If Mira finds out the truth, Rhea's plan will fail. Relax, the other replied. Rhea said she has one last trick. The night test tomorrow. It'll finish Mira for good. Mira's blood ran cold. Night test, what is she planning? She waited until they left before slipping back to the dormitory. When she showed the piece of cloth to Kavya, her friends' eyes widened. This is Rhea's. Mira, this could clear your name. Yes, Mira said, her voice firm. But I need to show it to the general at the right time. If I confront Rhea now, she'll deny everything and twist it. The next day, the academy buzzed with talk of the upcoming night test, a dangerous obstacle course run in near darkness, designed to test courage and survival instincts. It was a test of honor, and failing it could mean expulsion. Rhea was all smiles, her voice dripping with fake sweetness as she approached Mira. I hear you're allowed to join the night test, she said. How lucky. Maybe you'll finally prove you're not just some village charity case. Mira met her gaze calm but steady. We'll see who proves what. That evening, as the cadets prepared for the test, the general watched them closely. His mind was divided, half on the test, half on the message about Asha. He had received another update that morning. Evidence suggests Asha alive. Need immediate confirmation. The general clenched his jaw. If Asha is alive, Mira deserves to know, but not yet. Not until I am sure. The night test began under a sky so dark the stars seemed like scattered fireflies. The course was lit only by a few lanterns, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The cadets had to navigate through a series of obstacles, climbs muddy trenches, and narrow balance beams while carrying heavy packs. Mira tightened her straps, her focus razor-sharp. She wasn't just running this test for herself. She was running for her mother's name. The whistle blew. Section was tough but manageable. Mira kept a steady pace, ignoring Rhea's attempts to shove past her. At one point, Rhea deliberately kicked mud into Mira's face, but Mira wiped it away and pressed on. The second section was darker, with sharp turns and hidden traps. Mira moved carefully, using her memory of the course to guide her steps. She could hear Rhea's mocking laughter behind her. Careful, Mira, Rhea taunted. Wouldn't want to trip and fail like you always do? Suddenly, there was a loud snap. A rope bridge ahead gave way, sending two cadets tumbling into the mud pit below. The instructors rushed to help them out, but Mira froze. That rope. It didn't look worn. It looked cut. Her eyes darted to Rhea, who was already climbing another section, a smile playing on her lips. She did this. By the time Mira reached the final stage, a tall wall that had to be scaled, her body was screaming with exhaustion. Rhea was already halfway up, looking down at her with smug triumph. See you at the top, village girl. Rhea shouted. Mira gritted her teeth and climbed, her hands burning against the rope. Each pull felt like it might be her last, but she refused to stop. As she neared the top, a heavy sandbag suddenly swung down from above, an accident set up to knock someone off. Mira ducked just in time, but the bag slammed into the wall. Shaking it for a second, she lost her grip. Careful, Kavya shouted from below. It's not safe. Mira took a deep breath, her mother's voice echoing in her heart. Don't let fear win. Fight. With one final push, she climbed over the top, just seconds behind Rhea. The test ended with both girls finishing nearly at the same time. General stepped forward, his face stern. Good work, he said to all the cadets. But I will personally investigate why the rope bridge failed. Safety is not a game. Mira's heart pounded. This is my chance. Later, when the crowd dispersed, Mira approached the general. Sir, I need to show you something. She handed him the piece of cloth with Rhea's initials. The general examined it, his eyes narrowing. Where did you find this? Near the supply shed, after the fire, Mira said. Sir, I think Rhea set me up. The general's expression hardened. I will handle this. The world around Mira blurred as the soldier's words sank in. Alive, Mama, alive. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, she couldn't move. She had grown up believing her mother was gone, lost to the shadows of a war no one wanted to talk about. Now to hear that she might still be breathing somewhere, it was too much to process. The general's face was unreadable as he took the message from the soldier. Dismissed, he said curtly. The soldier saluted and left. And turning to Mira, he spoke in a low, firm voice. This news is not confirmed yet. I don't want you to jump to conclusions. Mira shook her head, her voice trembling. Sir, I need to know everything, please. I can't just sit here while she might be out there, suffering. The general's jaw tightened. We'll talk, but not here. Follow me. They walked in silence through the dimly lit corridors of the academy, Mira's mind racing. Every step felt like an eternity. What if her mother was hurt? What if she was trapped somewhere waiting for someone to bring her home? The general stopped in front of his office and motioned for her to sit. He closed the door, locking it with a quiet click. This message, he said, holding up the crumpled paper, came from one of our field officers stationed near the border. He claims to have found signs of Ushora mother living under another name, in a village close to a restricted zone, but he paused, his expression heavy. The area is dangerous. We can't confirm anything without a proper investigation. Mira's hands gripped the edge of the chair. Then let me go. I'll find her. I don't care how dangerous it is. The general shook his head. This isn't something you can do alone. You're still in training. One mistake could cost you your life. I don't care. Mira's voice cracked. She's my mother. I have to know. For a moment, the general just looked at her. Looked at her. There was something in his eyes, something like regret mixed with admiration. You're just like her, he said finally. That same fire, that same stubbornness. Mira's voice softened. Then you know I can't ignore this. The general sighed. I'll send a team to confirm the report. But until I know for sure, I want you to stay focused on your training. Do you understand? Mira nodded reluctantly, though her heart screamed against the order. When she returned to the dormitory, Kavya was waiting. You've been with the general again, Kavya said, concern etched on her face. What happened? Mira sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her hands. Kavya, they think my mother might be alive. Kavya gasped. What? But how? I thought so too, Mira interrupted, her voice shaking. But if there's even a chance, I have to find her. Kavya reached out and squeezed her hand. Then we'll find her together. Across the hall, Ria overheard every word. She leaned against the doorframe, her mind spinning. Her mother? Alive. No wonder the general treats her differently. If everyone finds out she's the daughter of a hero, I'll be forgotten. Ria nails dug into her palm. I can't let that happen. That night, Ria called her two closest allies to the corner of the mess hall. We need to make sure Mira doesn't become the academy's golden girl. If she gets special attention because of her mother, we're done. So here's the plan. The next morning, Mira woke to whispers. Something felt wrong the moment she stepped outside. Cadets were gathered around the notice board, pointing and murmuring. Kavya pulled her aside. Mira, someone put up a note about you. Mira frowned and walked toward the board. Her stomach dropped when she read it. Cadet Mira only got into this academy because of her connections. She's using her mother's name to get special treatment. Is this the kind of soldier we want? The words burned in her mind. Ria's mocking smile across the courtyard told her exactly who was behind it. Mira's chest tightened. For years she had worked to prove she wasn't just a poor village girl with nothing to offer. And now this Kavya pulled the note down and ripped it to shreds. Don't let her get to you, she said firmly. But Mira couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her, whispers of doubt. Cadets wondering if the rumor was true. Later that day, the general gathered the cadets. For an important announcement, tomorrow, he said, his voice firm, you will face the unity drill. It is not about strength or speed. It is about trust and teamwork. Only the cadets who work together will pass. Mira's heart sank. Ria would use this drill to isolate her. Sure enough, when the teams were assigned, Ria smirked. Looks like we're on the same team. Village? Girl, hope you don't slow us down. That night, Mira sat on her bed, staring at her mother's photograph. Kavya sat beside her. Mira, Kavya said softly, you can't let Ria break you. Tomorrow is your chance to prove you're a leader. If you let her get to you, she wins. Mira nodded slowly. I'm not letting her win. Not this time. The next day, the unity drill began. The cadets were divided into teams of 5. Each team had to navigate through a grueling course filled with heavy obstacles, requiring every member to contribute. If one person failed, the entire team failed. Ria wasted no time. As they approached the first obstacle, a massive log that needed to be carried across a muddy pitch, she crossed her arms. I'm not carrying this. Let's see if Mira can handle it. After all, she's so special. Mira gritted her teeth but said nothing. She bent down, lifted one end of the log, and waited. Slowly, the other cadets on her team joined her. Ria rolled her eyes but eventually helped. The second obstacle was a tall wall that required one cadet to climb and help pull the others up. Mira volunteered to go first. Her hands were raw, her muscles burning, but she climbed with every ounce of strength she had. At the top, she reached down and helped the others one by one, even Ria, who avoided her gaze by the final raft that needed to be pushed across a shallow river. Ria's attitude had begun to shift. She couldn't deny that Mira was carrying the team on her back, but just as they were nearing the finish line, Ria made her move. She deliberately loosened one of the ropes on the raft, causing it to tilt and nearly throw Mira into the water. Mira caught herself at the last second, her heart pounding. What are you doing? She snapped. Oops, Ria said with fake innocence. Guess you're not as perfect as everyone thinks. Mira's anger flared. I don't care what you think of me, Rhea, but if you ruin this for the whole team, you'll have to answer to them. The other cadets glared at Rhea. For once, she had no comeback. With one final push, the team crossed the finish line. They were drenched and exhausted, but they had passed. The general stepped forward, his gaze sweeping over the team. Good work, he said. His eyes lingered on Mira, pride flickering in them. Rhea's jaw tightened. Mira stared at the letter as if the words were alive, pulsing on the page. Aja is alive, but she is being held by enemy forces. Her hands trembled. For years, she had cried herself to sleep, thinking her mother was gone forever. And now, to know she was alive but a prisoner, it felt like hope and heartbreak tangled together, squeezing her chest until she could barely breathe. The general's voice was steady, though his eyes were heavy with something like guilt. I wanted to be sure before telling you. The team that sent this report is reliable. They have seen her. Mira's throat tightened. She's alive, but she's not free. The general nodded slowly. She's being held in a remote area across the border. It's a place even our forces have difficulty reaching. If we send a team, it will be dangerous. Not everyone will come back alive. Mira's voice shook, but there was steel in her words. Then send me. I don't care what it takes, I'll bring her back. The general's gaze sharpened. No, Mira, this isn't a cadet's job. You're not ready for this kind of mission. You could die. I'd rather die trying than sit here doing nothing while she's out there suffering. Mira's voice broke, but her resolve was unshaken. There was a long silence. The general finally spoke, his voice quieter. I knew your mother better than anyone. She would want you to live, Mira. She would want you to finish your training. First, to be prepared. Mira's eyes burned with tears. She's my mother. She would never give up on me, and I won't give up on her. The general's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Instead, he placed the letter back in its envelope and handed it to her. Keep this, but don't make any rash decisions. Do you understand? Mira nodded, but deep down she already knew what she had to do. That night, as the dormitory lights went out, Mira lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The other cadets were asleep, their steady breathing filling the quiet room. But her mind was a storm of thoughts. She saw her mother's face brave, kind, and unbreakable. She heard her voice, the one that used to hum lullabies when she was a child. I can't just wait here, Mira thought. I have to do something. Meanwhile, Rhea was pacing in the shadows of the courtyard, her fists clenched. She had overheard a piece of Mira's conversation with the general earlier. Her mother is alive. That means the general will give her even more attention. She'll become untouchable. Rhea's envy burned hotter than ever. If I can't beat her, I'll destroy her, she muttered under her breath. She pulled out a small notebook, where she had written every scheme she had tried against Mira. None had worked. But now, she had an idea final, dangerous plan. Next morning, the academy was alive with whispers about the unity drill results. Many cadets were impressed with Mira's performance. Even some who had mocked her before were now nodding with reluctant respect. Kavya grinned as she walked beside Mira. See, they're finally seeing who you really are. But Mira's heart wasn't in the victory. She kept thinking of her mother, trapped somewhere beyond the border. During lunch, Rhea sat across the room, her eyes fixed on Mira like a predator watching its prey. Later, Mira went to the general's office again. She didn't ask for permission this time, she demanded it. Double quotes, Sir, I can't just sit here, she said firmly. If you don't let me go on the mission to find her, I'll find my own way. The general looked at her, his expression a mixture of anger and reluctant admiration. You're reckless, Mira, just like Asha. Then trust me the way you trusted her, Mira said. I'm not afraid. The general's eyes softened for a moment. Fear isn't the enemy. It's what you do with it that matters. You think you're ready to face life or death situations? Prove it. Mira frowned. How? I'll set up a simulation, the toughest survival drill this academy has ever seen. Pass it, and I'll consider letting you join the mission. The announcement spread through the academy like wildfire. Special survival drill tomorrow. Only the strongest will last. Cadets whispered in excitement. Most thought it was designed to test everyone, but Mira knew it was for her. Kavya pulled her aside. Mira, this is insane. Survival drills are brutal. People break bones, some faint. I have no choice, Mira said. This is my chance to prove I'm ready. That night, Rhea smirked as she listened to the whispers about the upcoming drill. Perfect, she said to herself. If Mira wants to risk her life, I'll make sure she fails. Permanently. She snuck into the training grounds, quietly tampering with one of the obstacle rigs. She loosened ropes and planted sharp objects in places where Mira would step. Tomorrow, she regret ever stepping into my world, Rhea thought with a cruel grin. The day of the survival drill arrived with a heavy sky. Dark clouds loomed overhead, as if warning the cadets of the storm to come. The general stood before them, his voice booming. Today's drill will test more than your strength. It will test your will to survive. Not everyone will finish, but those who do will prove they are worthy of the uniform they wear. The cadets lined up at the starting point. Mira's heart pounded, but her face was calm. She wasn't doing this just for herself. She was doing it for Asha. The whistle blew. The first challenge was a dense forest trail filled with ropes. nets, and hidden pitfalls. Mira pushed through the mud and thorns, her breath ragged but steady. Kavya cheered her on from behind, but as Mira climbed the first rope wall, she felt it wobble unnaturally. One of the ropes snapped under her weight, sending her swinging dangerously. Gasps erupted from the watching cadets. "Hold on, Mira," Kavya shouted. Mera gritted her teeth and used every ounce of strength to grab the remaining rope and pull herself up. Rhea tampered with this. I know it. The second stage was even worse. Swampy trench filled with knee-deep water. Sharp branches poked out at odd angles, as if waiting to trip someone. Mira carefully waded through, keeping her eyes on the ground. Rhea, a few meters behind her, pretended to struggle. Careful, village girl, she sneered. Wouldn't want to lose your chance to impress the general. Mira ignored her. She was focused on one thing, finishing. Halfway through the course, the rain began. It pounded on their heads, turning the ground into slippery sludge. Mira's muscles ached, but she kept going. Every time she wanted to stop, she pictured her mother's face strong, smiling, waiting for her. By the final obstacle, a steep cliff. With a rope ladder, many cadets had already given up. Mira's arms shook as she climbed, but she refused to let go. When she reached the top, drenched and shaking, the general was there waiting. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. You've proven your will, Mira. You have your mother's strength. Mira's chest heaved as she caught her breath. Then, let me go on the mission. The general didn't answer right away. We'll talk tonight, he said finally. The general's office was quiet except for the faint sound of rain hitting the window. Mira stood there, soaked from the survival drill, but she didn't care. Her heart pounded as she stared at the new message on his desk. She caught a few words. Asha confirmed. 72 hours. Sir, she said, her voice trembling but determined. It's about my mother, isn't it? You found her. The general's jaw tightened. Yes, Asha's location has been confirmed, but she's in enemy territory, heavily guarded. We have 72 hours to act before they move her somewhere we can't reach. Mira stepped forward. Then let me go with the team, please, sir. I've trained for this. I passed the survival drill. I'm ready. The general studied her face, seeing the same fire he once saw in Asha's eyes. You're not a soldier yet, Mira. Missions like this are not training exercises. One wrong move, and you could die. Mira's voice cracked but stayed firm. If it's for my mother, I'd rather die trying than live knowing I did nothing. The general turned away, his hands clasped behind his back. For a long moment, he said nothing. Finally, he spoke, his tone heavy. Fine. But under one condition: you follow my orders exactly. No reckless heroics. We go as a team, or we don't go at all. Understood. Mira's heart leaped. Yes, sir. The next day, preparations for the mission began. The chosen team included 3 experienced officers, the general himself, and Mira surprised 2 cadets for field assistance. Mira and Rhea. Mira's eyes widened when she saw Rhea's name on the list. Sir, why her? The general looked at her calmly. Rhea is one of the strongest cadets. This mission requires every capable hand. Put your differences aside. Mira bit her tongue, but her stomach twisted. She didn't trust Rhea, especially not on something this dangerous. In the dormitory, Rhea confronted her, a twisted smile on her face. So, the general's taking you on his rescue mission? Guess your hero mommy really does get you. Special treatment. Mira's fists clenched. This isn't about me. It's about saving someone who risked everything for her country. Something you'll never understand. Rhea's eyes darkened. We'll see how long you last out there. Don't think I'll save you if you get yourself killed. Kavya, who wasn't chosen for the mission, hugged Mira tightly that night. Promise me you'll come back, she whispered. Mira smiled faintly. I promise. And when I do, I'll bring my mother back too. The mission began before dawn. The team moved silently, their black uniforms blending with the shadows. Mira carried a light pack with medical supplies, her heart pounding with every step. She had never left the safety of the academy for something this dangerous. The general led the way, his presence steady and unshakable. Stay close, he ordered. We move fast and quiet. No unnecessary noise. Rhea rolled her eyes but followed. They crossed into the dense border forest. The atmosphere changed. Every rustle of leaves sounded like danger. Mira kept scanning the trees, her senses sharp. Hours passed as they trekked through the muddy terrain. When they finally stopped for a short break, one of the officers handed Mira a canteen. Drink, you'll need your strength. Mira nodded, sipping water, but her mind was on Asha. Is she hurt? Is she scared? Mama, just hold on. I'm coming. That night they camped in a small clearing. The officers set up a perimeter while Mira tried to rest. But sleep wouldn't come. She overheard the general talking quietly with one of the soldiers. The intel says she's in an old warehouse near the ridge, but the area is crawling with guards. We'll need a diversion. Mira clenched her fists. She wished she could hear Asha's voice, even just once. Meanwhile, Rhea sat a few feet away, sharpening a small knife. She glanced at Mira, her expression unreadable. So, what's your plan? You think you're going to play the hero and save your mommy? Don't get in my way. Mira glared at her. This isn't about me. It's about doing the right thing. You wouldn't understand. Rhea smirked. You think you're better than me, but out here, strength is all that matters. And I'm stronger. The next morning, the team moved closer to the enemy zone. The air was tense. The warehouse was just a few kilometers away. The general called the group together. We attack tonight. Rhea, you and Mira will help set up a distraction on the east side. The rest of us will move in from the west. Stick to the plan. Mira nodded, but a small voice inside her whispered, "Can I trust Rhea to have my back?" When night fell, the forest around the warehouse was alive with danger. Mira and Rhea crawled through the underbrush, carrying smoke grenades for the diversion. "Don't mess this up," Rhea hissed. "Just do your part," Mira whispered back, reached their position and waited for the signal. When the first flash of light came from the west, Mira pulled the pin on her smoke grenade and threw it. The thick smoke spread quickly, covering their movements. But then, something went wrong. A guard spotted them. "Hey, intruders," he shouted. Mera froze as bullets ripped through the trees. She ducked behind a log, her heart pounding. "Rhea, we have to move." But Rhea was gone. Mira's stomach dropped. "She left me here." The general's voice came through the earpiece. "Mira, report. What's happening?" Rhea abandoned the post. Mira shouted, crawling through the dirt. "I'm pinned down. Stay low. We're coming to you," the general said. But before the team could reach her, a shadow fell over Mira. A soldier grabbed her from behind, yanking her up. She struggled, kicking and clawing, but he was too strong. "Got one." The soldier shouted in a foreign language. The soldier's grip on Mira's arm was like iron, but her mind was sharper than her fear. She twisted, trying to break free, her boots slipping in the mud as the chaos of the ambush thundered around her. Gunfire cracked through the night. Smoke stung her eyes. All she could see, beyond the haze and shadows, was her mother, weak, chained, but alive. "Mira." Usha's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the noise like a blade. "Mama, I'm here," Mira screamed, her throat raw. But the soldier yanked her back, shoving her toward the warehouse wall. Suddenly, the general's voice roared through the cums. "Team Bravo covered the east side. Mira's pinned." Before the soldier could drag her inside, Mira spotted a jagged rock on the ground. With every ounce of strength, she rammed her elbow into his ribs and grabbed the rock, slamming it against his hand. He howled in pain. Loosening his grip just enough for her to wrench free, she dove behind a stack of barrels as bullets tore through the night. Her heart hammered. "I can't lose. Not now." From her hiding spot, Mira scanned the area. The general and his team were pushing from the west, exchanging fire with the enemy. In the confusion, Rhea reappeared, crouched behind a tree, her face pale. "Rhea," Mira shouted, anger mixing with desperation. "Where were you? You left me." Rhea's lips curled into a smirk, though fear glimmered in her eyes. "I'm not here to play hero like you. I'm here to survive." Mira's jaw tightened. "Then stay out of my way." She spotted her mother again, chained to a post inside the warehouse, barely able to stand. The sight ignited a fire in Mira's chest. She crawled through the mud, dodging flying debris, until she reached the sidewall. She could hear Usha's weak voice calling her name, each syllable like a plea for hope. "Hang on, Mama, I'm coming," Mira whispered. The general's voice crackled in her ear. "Mira, don't go in alone. We'll breach the west wall. In 2 minutes?" "I don't have 2 minutes," Mira replied, her voice steady but trembling with emotion. "She's right there, sir. I can't wait." "Mira, that's an order." She ripped out the earpiece before he could finish. Mira crawled to a side entrance, her pulse pounding. She peeked inside. The warehouse was dim, lit only by a single flickering bulb. 2 guards stood near her, mother, their backs turned as they shouted orders to others, with quiet steps. Mira slipped inside, using the shadows as cover. Her breath was shallow, her hands clenched. She reached the first guard silently and swung the metal rod she'd found. Near the entrance, the guard dropped with a grunt. The second guard spun around. "Hey!" Mira lunged forward, slamming into him with everything she had. They crashed to the ground, wrestling in the dirt. His hands went for her throat, but she kneed him hard in the stomach and grabbed his rifle, pointing it straight at him. "Don't move," she hissed, her hands shaking. "Mama," she whispered, rushing to Asha. Asha's face lit up despite the bruises. "Mira, you're real. I thought I'd never see you again." Tears blurred Mira's vision. "I'm here now. I'm taking you home." She fumbled with the chains, her fingers raw, but before she could break the lock, footsteps thundered. Behind her, Rhea stepped inside, holding a pistol. Her face was pale, but her eyes gleamed with something dark. "Well, isn't this sweet?" Rhea said coldly. "The little village girl playing savior." Mira froze. "Rhea, what are you doing?" "What I should have done a long time ago," Rhea snapped. "You've stolen everything from me: respect, attention, even the general's approval. Do you think anyone will remember me when you're the hero with the famous mother? No, I won't let that happen." Mira's stomach dropped. "This isn't a game, Rhea. My mother's life is at stake. Help us, or get out of the way." Rhea's grip on the pistol tightened. "No, you're not leaving here." Asha, weak, but fierce, lifted her head. "Child, you don't know what you're doing. Put the gun down." "Shut up," Rhea barked, her voice cracking. Before Rhea could fire, a loud crash shook the warehouse. The general and his team stormed through. The west wall, shouting commands as bullets flew. Ria's eyes widened in panic. She turned the pistol on Mira, but Mira was faster. She grabbed a loose chain from the ground and swung it, knocking the gun out of Ria's hand. The two girls struggled, their bodies slamming against the dusty floor. Mira's anger boiled over as she pinned Ria down. Why? Ria, Mira demanded, breathless. Why can't you just fight fair? Because I'm nothing compared to you, Ria screamed, tears streaking her face. The general's voice cut through the chaos. Mira, get your mother out now. Mira shoved Ria aside, racing to Asha. One of the soldiers handed her a bolt cutter, and with a sharp snap, the chains broke. Can you walk, Mama? Mira asked, her voice trembling. Asha nodded weakly. With you, I can do anything. The team moved fast, covering their retreat as enemy reinforcements arrived. Ria, still shaken, followed silently, her face pale. For once, she had nothing to say. As they ran through the forest, bullets whizzed past. Mira supported Asha, her heart pounding with every step. Just a little further, just hold on. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the extraction point where a helicopter waited. The general shouted, "Get them aboard." Mira helped Asha into the chopper, her hands trembling with relief. As the blades roared to life, Mira collapsed into the seat beside her mother, tears streaming down her face. You're safe now, Mama, you're safe. Asha smiled faintly, touching Mira's cheek. You've grown so strong, my little warrior. As the helicopter lifted off, Mira looked out at the fading battlefield. Ria sat across from her, silent and pale, avoiding her gaze. For the first time, Ria seemed smaller, almost broken. The general sat beside Mira, his hand resting on her shoulder. You've done well, Mira. Your mother would be proud. Mira smiled through her tears. She's here. That's all that matters. Epilogue. Scene. A week later, the academy gathered in the main hall. Asha, now recovering, stood beside the general as he addressed the cadets. Bravery is not about where you come from or what uniform you wear, the general said, his voice firm. It's about the heart to fight for what's right. Cadet, Mira has shown that heart not just as a soldier, but as a daughter who never gave up. The hall erupted into applause. For the first time, Mira felt the weight of all the mockery and doubt lift off her shoulders. Ria stood in the back, her face unreadable. She didn't clap, but for once, she didn't sneer either. After the ceremony, Asha hugged Mira tightly. You've done more than rescue me, Mira. You've proven to everyone what I always knew. You were born to be strong. Mira smiled, her eyes wet. I'm just glad I have you back, Mama. The general stepped forward, saluting them both. The academy will never forget what you've done, Mira. Your story, it's only beginning.